So do you want to go ahead and get started?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Let's
All
roll.
right. So we have nobody here for public comments, just staff today. Like you said, we'll defer on the minutes. Today's agenda, as we go through the year, we are focused on math and science. I'd like to introduce our math supervisors, Amber Madigan, supervisor of elementary math, and Stacy Sisler, supervisor of secondary math. They're going to do presentation number 1, and then we will follow that up with science, our supervisor of pre-K to 12 science and STEM, Colleen Beal. So unless you have any introductory comments, we will go ahead and jump in.
No, let's get rolling.
All right, so I'm just going to get us started here with the math presentation, and we just want to, be informing the board in ongoing ways about a lot of pretty big work in mathematics that's on the horizon. So we're going to share some of that with you today, sort of the big picture that's driving some of the work in mathematics, briefly on what's happening currently, but more importantly, there's a lot of future work on the horizon that we want to make sure you and fellow board members understand as a result of a Maryland math policy that was passed earlier, about less than a year ago now, in 2025. So this Maryland math policy that was adopted by the state board last year is driving a lot of future work that's going to create pretty significant shifts for math instruction in FCPS in the years to come. Most significantly 27, 28, and beyond, but you're going to hear a little bit today about some of the shorter term things that are happening. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to the team to begin with the big picture and go from there.
Good morning, Ms. Brennan. It's nice to be with you again. We're going to just start with our guiding tenets and some pieces and bodies of work that guide everything that we do in our mathematics program. And the first is our vision for mathematics. And you'll see it on the screen that we envision that every child in Frederick County will master math proficiencies, demonstrate productive dispositions, and develop the ability to apply those skills and understandings to thrive in college or career, in our community, whatever path they might choose beyond their K-12 experience. Aligned to our pre-K to 12 vision is our mission, where we value a vibrant culture of math learning, and we want to do everything that we can do to support our students in that, as well as a collaborative and productive professional learning experience and levels of support for our teachers so that they can meet the needs of the students in their classroom every day. Another part of our guiding tenets is our FCPS learning journey, and I'm sure you've heard of our learning journey before. In DCI, we affectionately call this the Pencil Mountain, but really, the learning journey represents our commitment to making sure students at very specific milestones in their educational journey have what they need to be successful. And those are our ready for commitments, including pre-K, ready for grade 3, grade 6, grade 9, CCR, and again, for whatever students might choose beyond their schooling here in FCPS.
So the comprehensive math policy was presented last year in draft form. Share that it was approved without revision. And 5 of the 7 components actually received accomplished and distinguished ratings. So within this area, it will be a living and breathing document for us. It will inform our practice as our guide to meeting the state's requirements and requirements that we have established for ourselves for the high quality math instruction that we want to see in Frederick County Public Schools. In doing so, we will have regular collaborative progress monitoring, which actually was rated quite high when the state looked at our plan for
and aligned, of course, to our comprehensive plan in Frederick County. And what drives some of the decisions and the goals that we established in that plan is the Maryland Mathematics Policy. And Mr. Murphy referenced that policy earlier. It was approved in March of 2025, so we're almost a year later. And out of that policy comes some really important buckets of work for us to attend to. And part of that is access and equitable math opportunities. And that is where we're committed and giving attention to MTSS supports for students who might struggle with mathematics and need extra support to accelerate their learning towards on-grade learning. It also includes our structures for acceleration and making sure we remain committed to acceleration opportunities for students who are ready to enrich and extend their learning in math. Part of this also includes considerations for instructional minutes in K-8 and making sure we're meeting those minimum requirements from the state, as well as numeracy development, which is a new and yet not new idea. We've always paid attention to students and their numeracy, how they grow and build their math skills and their math fluency, their math thinking, their math reasoning, but the state of Maryland has actually developed a framework now to give specific attention to that development so that students are even more ready to move forward, like I said, in those ready for milestones, for example, in our learning journey in FCPS. The career and college readiness standards progression is where the work of revised standards and integrated courses in high school are a big focus of that work. And we're going to discuss those a little bit later in our presentation when we talk about the future work of our math programming here in FCPS. The system of supports for educators is an exciting opportunity for us to partner with MSDE on professional learning that they're developing, not only around our standards progression and our integrated courses that are coming, but around effective mathematics teaching in general. So they are building out opportunities that we're also going to be able to take advantage of and share with all of our math educators from pre-K to 12 as they engage in teaching mathematics for our students. It also, the system of supports for educators is a place where the policy calls out the importance of coaching structures for teachers. And in FCPS, that would be our elementary and middle school math specialist and our high school academic specialist, and the importance of sustaining those structures and those roles to support our educators as they support our students. And then finally, assessment and accountability is something that helps us progress monitor the work that we're doing, not only in our comprehensive math plan, but in response to the policy, and also just making sure we are giving attention to our students every day and what they need to help them be successful. One of the exciting things that's come out of the policy that FCPS is well positioned for already is the idea of having common assessments across our grades and courses. We have had that as part of our assessment structure for several years now. And FCPS has been a leading voice in encouraging other LEAs around us, other districts around us, in how they can develop that practice in their own system.
So the implementation of our policy is a multi-year process. Starting next school year, Ms. Sisler just spoke to the common assessment, so that continued focus on monitoring student progress will continue, but we will be pivoting to implement the revised pre-K through 8 standards as well as the numeracy development framework. The following school year, we'll be looking at enhancements to our acceleration process, looking for additional ways for our secondary math pathways to be enhanced, as well as the start of integrated Algebra 2. I want to point out, Algebra 1, thank you.
Yeah.
Want to pay special attention within the policy to the minimal instructional minutes. 60 minutes is what they have pointed out as the minimum, and that will have an impact on our middle school bell schedule.
So I did want to kind of pause on this slide for a second, because this is one of the more significant things I was referring to. We're going to come back to the concepts around integrated algebra 1 and 2 kind of later in the presentation. I know you've had a lot of interest in some of our conversations about math acceleration, and this is obviously going to be a major shift that we're going to talk about later in the presentation, about what it actually means with those 2 courses and over those 2 years, as well as the impact of the middle school schedule. So this presentation actually is part of our kind of launch into more public communication about some of these changes that are coming. There's been some behind the scenes work with principals. We've been mobilizing, but because of the significant shifts, this presentation and beyond is really going to help us engage the community more on some of this. So again, later in the presentation, we'll talk more about integrated algebra, but I think we'll start with just kind of a snapshot of where we are now and then get to the future.
All right. And before we get to that future work, we do also want to share some updates about our current state of programming and the work that we're doing with our schools, with our teachers, with students.
So our highly qualified instructional materials, HQIM, aligns us with the blueprint, our math policy, as well as state and national standards. It is beyond just selecting a textbook because those resources are research-based and provide evidence-informed strategies and practices in which our teachers will implement. Within those HQIM, there'll be scaffolds that teachers will be able to implement, as well as enrichment and the assessment suite and more personalized instruction available for teachers as they're planning for students each day. Our current HQIM within the elementary arena is our iReady classroom. We started the implementation with grades 3 through 5 in 2003-2004, and then with K through 2 in 2004-2005.
And in our secondary world, for grades 6 through Algebra 2, which we consider our core math courses, we utilize Reveal Math, which is a McGraw-Hill product, and our implementation year for that began in school year 24. So this school year marks year 3 of implementation. We also partner Reveal Math with a digital supplement called Alex. If you have students in math classes, any of those math classes right now, you may have heard of Alex. Some of our students love it, and some of our students would rather do something else. But it has been a powerful supplement for supporting students in terms of filling gaps and addressing needs that they might have that they can address on their own a little bit, and then partner with teacher support. We also are committed, both our elementary team with Amber and myself and each of our teacher specialists, to visit classrooms regularly and visit our schools regularly. When we visit our classrooms, we visit to get an informal feel of what math instruction is like, what supports our teachers might need. We have opportunity to meet with administrators and talk about math programming and what they vision for where they would like to see their programs grow and stretch in the future. We also are engaged in feeder support. I know Amber and our elementary integrated literacy supervisor both attend feeder meetings with some of our school feeder principals. We also, as a pre-K-12 math team, had opportunity to support the Frederick High feeder, which is Frederick High, West Fred, and several of our elementary schools with a math focus and some professional learning to launch their math focus for the year. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do with HQIM implementation, and we're helping our teachers understand what implementing with fidelity versus implementing with integrity looks like. And we have to start in one space to move towards the other, and so we're providing as much support as we can with our schools and our teachers in HQIM implementation. We also, as part of a central support model, support school improvement teams at some of our ATSI and TSI identified schools. Amber and I engage in formal classroom observations to also support principals in that work. And that's the same Danielson framework evaluation process that our school-based administrators go through, and we provide that curriculum lens when we do those observations. But our teacher specialists also visit our schools and provide informal feedback, and they also engage in a lot of coaching and mentoring of our teachers.
Professional learning is really important to our work as a math team. It's the way that we build math capacity across the system. The accelerated learning process is a job-embedded way that we ensure as a district across content that teachers have opportunity to unpack standards, to look at their data, and make decisions as a team in regard to what the needs are within their building. It's also how we look at the integrity versus fidelity and what the needs are, so that it is always data informed. Within the professional development scope, we are providing that across levels. Our administrators and our math specialists are getting some common messaging to ensure that we're lifting that weight from schools and ensuring that their capacity is built together. So that work of determining what are the needs within our schools and how are we going to make sure that works for our specific population can happen once they leave that professional development table. We're also meeting with teachers. That happens during the curriculum days. We meet with our Math Pathways teachers to ensure that they're equipped for acceleration, ensuring that students are ready for middle school. We're also working with the state on several committees to ensure that we also are building our own capacity to be able to leverage this work. Some of those committees is our Policy Liaison Committee. We have teachers and specialists and principals, as well as ourselves, who are getting information from the state, and then that helps us really to inform our practice here moving forward.
Now we're going to dive into the future, which is exciting, but there's a lot.
So as we move into the revised standards next year, there will be some shifts that our staff notice. The domain and standard codes have changed. There are specific strategies and representations that are called out within those standards. Some of the complex standards that they saw before have been separated. There is a focus on authentic use of data, and then there's some shifts in content across grade level bands. The numeracy development framework is the roadmap for us to ensure that students are ready for algebra. They have backward mapped for us what that means for each grade level, giving specific focuses to ensure that students are equipped and ready. There's also a focus on communication with families to ensure that they understand where their student falls within that learning continuum, and monitoring to ensure that we are keeping a close watch on where students are and adjusting their instruction to make sure that they are ready for algebra.
As we shared in our timeline before, the immediate focus for next school year 27, is the revised pre-K to 8 standards and implementing those standards, aligning that with our curriculum resources, and preparing our elementary and middle school teachers for that shift. But next on the horizon is the shift to integrated math courses in our high schools, and also access to those courses in middle school through acceleration opportunities. This is probably the biggest shift that's come out of the mathematics policy and the vision from MSDE, and it's a shift that is probably 100 years in the making. We have lived in this traditional course sequence of Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. Occasionally you'll see someone do Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, but this traditional 3-course pathway has existed for decades. And what the state is finding is that in some cases, more than we would like, it's closing opportunities for students beyond 10th grade to access programs like CTC or early college or whatever their aspirations might be. And we don't want to close those opportunities. So we want to find a way to better prepare students by the end of 10th grade to be able to access whatever they choose in terms of college and career aspirations for that post-CCR experience. So the shift has been made to an integrated Algebra 1, Algebra 2 course sequence. Integrated courses have existed for many years. In fact, with Common Core, integrated math courses were part of one of the pathways of recommendations out of Common Core, but it was a 3-course sequence and not a 2-course sequence. So that's the other thing that makes Maryland's vision very unique in terms of how they want to integrate the standards in these 2 courses. Both courses, integrated Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, embed geometry, statistics, and data analysis in support of mathematical modeling and inferencing, specifically in terms of that data piece, which means there will no longer be a standalone geometry course. That is the biggest shift that especially our high school teachers are having to wrap their heads around. In addition, there's some shifts, like we mentioned, in content, so that students are able to focus and give attention to exactly what they need to in those courses, and the more nuanced and specialized mathematics becomes part of those secondary math pathway options in high school. So there's not as much overlap, there's much more focus on deep and contextualized understanding, and then saving nuances for later. So in school year 27-28, so not next year, but the year after, that will be the first year of our integrated courses. And we will start with integrated Algebra 1. So any student who would normally take Algebra 1 will begin the integrated sequence that year. The following year, school year 29, is when integrated Algebra 2 and secondary math pathways will be implemented. Again, the goal is for students to be college and career ready by grade 10. And continue our acceleration practices so that if students are ready for integrated courses in middle school, they have that opportunity as well, in particular integrated Algebra 1. And just one more time, I want to reiterate, there's essential core content in each of these integrated courses that's connected, and the goal is to deepen that understanding and then save specialized mathematics for other pathways courses that they might choose. Speaking of high school math pathways, once students reach 11th grade, really the possibilities are endless with what they can choose and what they can explore in terms of their own goals and aspirations for either college or career. And the secondary math pathways is being built in response to that. I say being built, but again, Frederick County is positioned really well to develop these pathways with courses that we have already that exist in our programming, like AP courses, AP pre-calculus, calculus A, B, B, C, things like that. Probability and statistics, AP statistics, our dual enrollment courses. All of them fit within these options for secondary math pathways. Another exciting connection is some work that's happening in CTE with career-connected learning, and the courses that students choose for math will be very much in line with their goals in those career plans.
Which is one of the things I'm really excited about. Is I hear from my own kids all the time when they're in algebra and geometry. How does this apply to real life? And so being able to do that career-connected piece as they go through high school, and it's not like everyone needs to take calculus or else. It's really connecting the math courses to career goals, a major in college, really connecting it to what next steps the kids want to take. Hopefully makes it seem like a more real-life experience in math for the students.
Well, that's one of the things that, I mean, I'm an accountant by profession, so everybody says, oh, you must love math. You must have done really well. I hate math. No offense. I didn't enjoy, past like 8th grade. You know what I mean? Past like Algebra 1. When it got to theoretical math, I'm not a theoretical. I'm a linear person, and so that's what I enjoyed. And but then people say like, oh, you must use. I use addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and some very basic algebra. Like even in a very math-based career, that's all the math I use. On the regularly. So I think I think the shift is good because there's kind of like. I feel like we have sacrificed what is practical for what is theoretical as far as how the courses have been aligned. And we do all these things to broaden, and I think that that's great. I mean, definitely people who are very oriented that way and enjoy that and the challenge, but like we end up with kids who don't really know Algebra 1 real well, and that is probably like a very critical, that's a life skill kind of class. And then you get into geometry, certainly understanding, angles and all that and all that kind of stuff for practical applications. But once we kind of get beyond that, the practical daily use, unless you are in, specifically in engineering or you're specifically in, math, we're not using it every day. And so we sometimes end up with kids who don't do the practical because we've kind of pushed them ahead to the theoretical, and they're not interested in that goal. So I think that that's really great. I was curious, if you could expound on what you were saying about numeracy, because one of the things we put our children in the classical charter school, and one of the reasons why is because I wanted what we used to call math facts, times tables, whatever. And I feel like that was a gap that I could really see the difference in my son who went in regular, just in the regular district, our district school, to 4th grade versus our daughter who started at 1st grade with the math facts and how much quicker they did some things. So are we kind of getting back to that kind of stuff a little bit when you're talking numeracy, or what are we talking about there?
I would say yes, and not to get into the weeds too much, but the numeracy development framework lists, based on the new domains that are outlined in our standards, they list core milestones of learning for students from pre-K through grade 8. So by the end of kindergarten, as part of number and operations, my child will be able to, and they list core milestones or competencies for students. Some of them are very specifically aligned to the standards because the standard is the milestone. Sometimes a standard is a bridge to a milestone. Regardless of that, in early numeracy, there is a renewed focus on fluency, so fact fluency, and also automaticity, which is, I think, the piece that's been missing
Yes.
or maybe misinterpreted when we shifted to Common Core. So that automaticity piece, another big piece in terms of number sense, which helps with fluency and automaticity, is estimation and number sense, and thinking about magnitude and reasonableness of numbers, and that is a big focus in the numeracy development framework as well. So my answer is yes.
Okay.
In particular in early numeracy. Did you want to add anything else?
The other piece in pre-K through 3 is really that number sense and a heavy focus there to ensure that they are able to handle those higher levels of math later.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that was a big issue to me is automaticity. And because I feel like, I think we underestimated or overestimated, how much brain power it takes when you have to actually think about 2 + 2 when you're trying to do the rest of your problem. If you don't just know 2 + 2, how much that changes, you know what I mean? And how much harder that makes everything later.
You're speaking our language in terms of cognitive science and learning science and cognitive load. When students have facts automatically,
Yes.
you're right, that reduces the cognitive load and builds space for new learning and understanding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's, okay, so that's what I wanted to kind of get to. Explain that. So, when you say about the closing opportunities, as far as like why we've kind of gotten rid of the geometry and gone into integrated, when you're saying closing, you're meaning that the fact that we had to get to maybe Algebra 2 in order to take the classes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're pushing all that earlier so that by 10th grade, kids are kind of like done the minimum specific requirement for this. They have to continue math credits, but they're kind of like met some type sort of minimum target. And now it's specialization.
Yes.
Okay, so in order to do that, we're kind of making sure we're trying to get Algebra 1, or try to be ready to do that younger, earlier, get rid of the 3, so we're kind of wrapped up with our algebras and stuff. Okay. And so one thing and that had really come up, and Dr. Vetter brought this up really well at one of the other board meetings, was we obviously have a lot of children who are good with math and might be behind grade level for reading. And so when we get to things like word problems, now those children aren't performing particularly well because it involves too much reading or more reading, reading beyond their capacity. They know the math, they struggle in the reading part. What is anything in our new kind of pathway, our new focus, like what are we doing to kind of help those students in particular who might be reading strugglers but very good with math?
So within the instructional pathways, when we're thinking about Tier 1 instruction, we want all of our students to be able to access grade level material. So that's where the scaffolding is something that we've been focused on during professional development, pulling that out of the HQIM and making sure teachers see where that is available. And it's also a conversation that's happening during the accelerated learning process, because there are ways to open doors for students. Sometimes it's having it available so that they can listen to it. Sometimes it's putting visuals in place. We just need to ensure that we're not over scaffolding so that students can rise to those occasions and that it's tailored to that specific student's needs. So that is something that we've been focusing on all year within our principal professional development, with our specialists and with our teachers.
And I would add to that, some of the work in our Department of Curriculum Instruction is around literacy across our contents. A focus this year has been with CER, which is a writing strategy, claim evidence reasoning, and we have embraced that in math, in particular in the secondary world. A lot of that connection and that work across contents is happening, and I do see a space where reading support is also going to be important and a logical next step. In fact, when you look at some of the research and some of the commentary coming out of math world for reading is very nuanced even for math. When you look at a fraction, there's so many different ways to even read a fraction and interpret what it means in a certain context, for example. And so there's space and work to be done there, and we're doing that work in partnership with our literacy team across our contents in DCI. So there's exciting work to happen, but we do also, as Amber said, we address scaffolding and ways that we can support students right now with accessing that work.
Okay, great. So tell me a little bit more, because as Dr. Murphy mentioned, this is always a big thing for me. Tell me a little bit more about the opportunities for acceleration. I think that's one of the most common complaints I get from parents, is that my child is, did this so fast and now they're sitting there bored, and look, that's part of having class of 25 kids. You're not going to have everybody on the same schedule, but what are we doing to help identify that, accelerate those kids? What are these opportunities looking like? I think personally, high school, we got it okay. That seems like that's where there's lots of ways you can go. There's lots of classes you can take. You can, we're kind of, once we get there, we're good. Specifically, elementary school and middle school, what are we really providing that doesn't come across as more work? That's kind of the next level. You know what I mean? There's two different things there.
So within grades 3 through 5, we have cluster grouping in place. Students are identified as needing that extra support, and so when we're looking at our master schedule, we're looking at groupings. We make sure that they are together so that we can accelerate that group. There are resources through advanced academics that teachers are pulling, and again, that's conversation that they're having at that accelerated learning table to determine where students need to be accelerated, and they're looking data specific, because one of the things that we want to ensure with mathematics is that we don't want to create gaps and holes. So we want to accelerate them where they are while also providing strong grade level foundation when they're not showing mastery of standards. So it really is selective to the needs of those students and helping to build capacity of our teachers to recognize that. We have pushed the accelerated learning process and bringing that conversation so that teachers are having that discussion at the table with other experts in the room to ensure that we're pooling the right resources to put that in place. And the other thing that we have in place is our pathways in 5th grade, so that they are being accelerated into that 6th grade curriculum and prepared for advanced placement later in middle school.
Okay.
And to be explicit, and we want the public to understand this, when the integrated algebra comes in, there will still be acceleration in elementary and middle. So 5th graders will still have access to 6th grade content. And many 6th graders will still take 7th or 8th grade math when they get to middle school as 6th graders. And so that trajectory of acceleration starting elementary into middle towards the new integrated courses will continue.
Okay.
And Amber mentioned our advanced academics team, and they really are a collaborative partner in this work in making sure we are talent spotting and finding those students who are ready for those opportunities and supporting our teachers and supporting our students, whether it's enrichment opportunities within their grade level or whether they've demonstrated readiness for acceleration through math pathways or through subject acceleration, whatever the model or the tier of support might be. Our advanced academics team is really integral in that work with us. And that is one of the spaces, again, in the math policy where there's going to be some refinement and enhancements to our practices. And we don't know what all those answers are yet, but we're committed to making sure that we're providing all the opportunities that we can for our students who are ready for acceleration.
Okay, great. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Well, thank you, math team.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and shift the presentation over to science. I'm going to introduce Colleen Beal, our supervisor, who supervises lots of things. And we're going to hear about many of those today, and it's well beyond science. One of the things we've done this year is tried to streamline some of these presentations for you. And so this one includes not only science, but would have also been a STEM presentation, as well as sustainability and environmental literacy. So we've put all that together in one package because it's all led by Ms. Beal. The other thing I want to queue up is the large volume of student programs that we run out of our department. And in particular, some of the ones you'll hear about today include the ESSL, the outdoor school, thousands and thousands of kids accessing those programs every year. So we'll hear about those. Are you ready, Ms. Beal?
I am. I'm having a little mouse difficulty. Forward. Yeah, I'm trying to move it forward. I thought I knew how to use a mouse. Don't worry, Science and STEM are in good hands. So,
You got it? Okay.
got it. I don't know if Mary.
When in doubt,
If it's not working,
when in doubt, say next slide.
Yeah.
So as Mr. Murphy talked about, I'm going to be talking to you about science instruction and programming, and talking about all the things science, STEM, student programs.
Colleen.
Okay, thank you. The mouse will be decorative. So with science education, what we're focusing on is we want the kids to love science as much as I do, and to figure out science, to become more scientifically literate, to learn about the world around them, because we have so many awesome things with the phenomena, and to be able to explain how the world works. We also want them to be able to ask questions and test what they see, talk about the data, and have that strong foundational understanding. Because there's a difference between scientifically literate kids who can figure things out and think about things and just memorize facts. And we want more of the doing of science rather than just the learning about science. So first we're going to talk about curriculum instruction and assessment. And with curriculum instruction, our standards are the Maryland State Science Standards. There's 3 domains: disciplinary, core ideas, which is the what, the science and engineering practices, the how, and the cross-cutting concepts, which are the overarching themes, the why. Our focus in science instruction is that it's hands-on. We not only do it, we talk about it, we write about it, we ask questions of like, why did that happen? And bring it back to that real world phenomenon based. What we've been doing with our science instruction is, because nothing is in a silo, we want to elevate that disciplinary literacy in writing. Because what Mrs. sort of talked about with the CER, claim evidence reasoning, we're doing that in science as well. Our evidence sometimes is more data. But we got that from the hands-on. In elementary, we have been partnering with our new team of the integrated literacy team. And some of the things, the work that we've done together is aligning the ELA units with scientific topics. So in elementary school, when they're experimenting with waves, they're also reading about waves. So we took the two curricula and looked where they could fit, so that we're expanding that opportunity and reinforcing it. Also, science lends itself to the background knowledge, the knowledge building, and vocabulary. With science, we use a lot of vocabulary. We also, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but the MIWIs, the Meaningful Watershed Educational Experiences, we took those too and saw where did they pair naturally with the ELA. So it just makes a more cohesive experience in elementary school. The integrated elementary team also, with everything, is looking at revamping Curriculum Now, which is our site for teachers for their resources, to simplify that, because the elementary teacher, they teach everything. And we want it to be more at their fingertips, so they're not spending all their time trying to find, like, where's the science unit, where's the social studies unit, where's the ELA, to have a more streamlined approach so that they have high quality resources at their fingertips. In secondary, just to refresh with our high school courses, along with our standards, to ensure that all of our students get all of the standards, we have a requirement of 3 lab courses. And the 3 lab courses, you have to take one that is physical and earth-based sciences, one in the life sciences, and one in the chemical sciences. And with our sequence, our physical and earth-based sciences are algebra-based physics or physics of earth and space, and that has the majority of our physical science, the physics of our physical sciences, and our earth-based science integrated into it. And then life sciences is biology, and then the rest of the physical science standards are chemistry standards. And we have that in chemistry, and we also have it embedded in environmental science. And we also have a variety of high interest electives, along with advanced placement and dual enrollment options. In middle school, all of our students are getting all of the standards also, and we are embarking on our journey into high quality instructional materials, and have been looking at a variety of resources through a textbook review committee, and we have 2 really robust programs up for approval at the end of the month through the Board of Ed. And we're looking ahead with budget in mind always of implementing for middle school a robust program for our students and teachers.
And just to point out there, that will come to you all at the February 25th board meeting for approval, but the implementation timeline is to be determined based on budget, first and foremost, and just the bandwidth of our teachers right now. But you'll see that come to the full board later.
What are we, when we're talking about the budget implication, we're talking about obviously buying new materials, but are we also have a component of like workbooks and stuff like that? Are we just talking about like textbook licenses or new textbooks? What are we?
The curriculum publishers that we've been reviewing, and similar with English language arts and math, are really kind of a complete package to achieve balance. Achieve balance with an old school textbook, consumable things that students actually write in, as well as a digital component. So they come pretty sophisticatedly, if that's a word, integrated as kind of a comprehensive approach to instruction. That's kind of one of the things that defines some of these HQIMs that you hear us talk about a lot, is sort of that package of resources that all fits together.
Thank you.
And in terms of assessment, the MCAP science is called the MESA, the Maryland Integrated Science Assessment, and we assess in elementary school, and it assesses the grade band of 3 to 5. And middle school assesses the grade band of 6 to 8, and high school assesses life science biology, and is also an end of course assessment in which 20% of the final grade is from the MISA. Our performance on the MISA has been strong. We received recognition this past fall for outpacing the state average. We had a 3.6% increase from the year before in elementary and 10% increase in middle school and high school. Like my colleagues in math, we spend a lot of time out in our schools supporting our teachers and providing a lot of different opportunities for professional learning. I also have a teacher specialist who spends a lot of time with our early career teachers. I also support our buildings with formal observations. We have what we call Science Office on the Road, when we are spending a day out in all of our middle and high schools, visiting classrooms, attending the accelerated learning process, supporting our teachers. We also offer a variety of after-school opportunities. We have a variety of book studies. We offer professional learning communities where teachers gather about once a month or every other month and collaborate and plan together across the county. We also are supporting our green schools and our school sustainability efforts. So just a variety of different things to support our teachers. We also have a variety of student programs. So to have the kids explore science outside of the classroom, there's a Great Frederick Fair. That is an elementary program. We have a Frederick County Science and Engineering Fair. It is science fair season right now. We are gearing up. On March 21st is our elementary fair, and March 28th is our secondary fair. That is at Tuscarora High School. You are welcome to come on out and get your science on. And the high school Envirothon is a competition where most of our high schools have a team or 2 or 3, and it focuses on ecology, wildlife, forestry, and soils. So you are welcome to come out to Catoctin State Park. Cunningham Falls State Park. I sometimes mix up the national and state, so I apologize for that. We have the practice March 24th. I'm really hoping the snow will be gone by then. And our competition is April 28th. We also, in the science office, sponsor a Women in Science and Engineering speaker series, a club after school that meets once a month at the ESSL in the evening, and a female STEM professional comes out and shares her path, her career path. And we are always looking for opportunities for our students for internships and partnerships. There is a Hood Women in Science Speak that is going on Friday that our career coaches have been advertising, and Mobilize Frederick is also hosting a climate summit and a green career fair that, again, with collaboration with our career coaches, a lot of our kids are taking advantage of that as well. The Earth and Space Science Lab, the ESSL, they are serving every student in grades 1 to 5, which is about 20,000 visits during the school day each year. And that is their primary focus. But we also have programs open to the public. It is Ocean Week right now, Secrets of the Sea, and we see over 5,000 visitors come from that public programming in the evenings, summers, and during school breaks. If you've never been to a fest, we have Spring Fest and Winter Fest. Those are very popular and just a great way to showcase such a special place in our county. Along with the ESSL, along with all of the programming, it also houses the Living Materials Center, which is, when you're walking around the ESSL, you might see a really large cage of anoles. those anoles go out to our 5th grade classes.
Oh, cool.
So when they're teaching, and so in the summer, our cage is packed full because they've all come home for the summer. But during the school year, they go out into the classrooms. So we have a little behind the scenes, a little fulfillment center of sending out animals and plants and soil and everything like that, that classrooms, so then they can do that hands-on learning. And who doesn't? I mean, it's very exciting when the animals arrive.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know how much the office is like when you see, like, you know, live animals come around, but I think that gets delivered quite quickly. Outdoor School is another program and serves 5th and 6th grade. Every student goes out on that, and say weather permitting. We have a little glitch right now with the snow that is hanging around, but our outdoor school is pushing into the schools right now until we have the trails more accessible. They provide outdoor learning field experiences aligned to the science curriculum in grades 5 and 6, and one of our systemic meaningful watershed experiences is in 6th grade, because they're looking at the water, Monocacy Water, Potomac River, and everything like that. And we really utilize the partnerships with state, county, and local resources with our outdoor school. We have a teacher specialist in STEM as well, who does an excellent job pushing out into the schools and supporting STEM integration. We have a variety of STEM labs and centers in our schools. Computer science, she has been working a lot with that in our media center. So, and supporting integrated literacy too. We have a lot of kits that get signed out and distributed to schools. She goes out and supports schools in how to use them and implement them, and also supporting robotic teams, clubs, and other extracurricular programs. And we also have a fabulous STEM showcase that is partnered with our elementary science fair. And last but not least, environmental literacy and sustainability. I am happy to serve on the sustainability leadership team, and we have been working on just defining what does sustainability mean in FCPS. We have been strengthening our collaboration with facilities. Dawn Ashbacher, the sustainability specialist, works a lot with us, and I think that has really been benefiting our schools, because we're together a little bit more and aligning more to move the work forward. We are always looking at curriculum integration. We have environmental lit standards that we have embedded pre-K to 12. We received a grant last year through the Chesapeake Bay Trust, which was growing our capacity of our teachers. We've had quite a bit of turnover over the years, and wanted to just reinforce, like, what is a meaningful watershed experience, what is environmental literacy, so we're growing the capacity of our teachers. We also were revising and refreshing our NEWIs in every grade band. We had a fabulous summer curriculum writing last summer that focused on that, and we have applied for another grant that would expand that in the high school. So fingers crossed, that hopefully in a few months we'll hear the good news about that. And we're supporting our green schools and our schools' sustainability efforts. We currently have 13 green schools, and we have several more applying this year. We're always looking for community partners. We have a lot of really passionate folks in the community that are helping move our work forward, and we're very grateful to them. And we have a lot of student programs, a lot of student around sustainability, but we're trying to make it a little bit more seamless and explicit when we're working on things, because a lot of times our green schools have a lot of passion, and we love that, and we want to make sure that it is uniform and equitable across the county.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beal.
Thank you. So I was really glad when you were talking about that you're aligning, what our standards are, what we're learning in science with arts, because that is a huge tenet in classical. I'm a huge classical education advocate, and that's a huge tenet, is that you have your things aligned. So I'm really glad to hear that, because I think that helps so much with reinforcing the learning, because you're learning a little bit about it here, but then you're also learning about it here, and now you're hearing it 2 and 3 times, and it's really great. I mean, I would love to see that expanded, in general across all of our classes, so that we are kind of learning about the kind of math when we're learning about the kind of science that people did, while we're learning about the kind of history, like what people were doing in that, when that was a exploding time in our history of, I think that really helps learning reinforcement. So I'm really glad to hear that. And I think that also helps put some things that, kids who may not think they're interested in science. I mean, I think science is, it's interesting. I think it's interesting. But you get to the point where you're like, okay, now it's, now we're getting like really hard, or it's really challenging, but in those younger grades where it's just learning about the stuff around you and learning to think about that, it's a lot of fun. And so I'm really glad that we're integrating all that stuff in our other classes. I am bummed, I know it's not your fault, that we don't have an outdoor school like they have in Carroll County. Our program's fantastic, but I grew up in Carroll County, so I got to go away for a whole week and do outdoor school at the overnight. And that was such a great experience. And so we have a great program. You guys run a great program. I was a chaperone one year for one of my kids. It's fantastic, but man, I wish we could do that. I really wish we could do that. It was such a great overall learning experience, and so cool to be immersive. So I know we'll never get there, but it would be nice. So I don't have any other questions. I was really fascinated by, I'm really excited about the stuff that you talked about. I think that it's, I think science-wise, overall, when I helped my kids when they were in school, when I'd help them choose, classes, we look at what's available. I was always amazed at all the options they had, to choose from, particularly once they got to high school. So I'm really excited about all the course offerings we have, and thank you. I think it's great.
Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we're about to wrap up. Just queuing up next month in March. You heard about the revised standards in math. We also have revised standards in ELA and revised standards in social studies that are coming from the state. But according to Board Policy 500, they need to come through to the full board for adoption here locally. So we're going to bring those first to the C&I committee in March, and then to the full board. I think it's going to be in April, as we have to implement all those revised standards and bring them around. We'll also hear about a couple of new courses that we're bringing in next year, as well as social studies and student leadership. So that's what's on the docket.
Great. I guess we're adjourned.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.